Okay, so I'm going to take you through how we clone our oyster mushroom that my mum and dad sent down from Cornwall. This is Pleurotus austriatus, the grey oyster. It was growing on a piece of untreated lumber in my mum and dad's shed. So we're going to, I've taken spore prints as best I can, and today we're going to take a piece of mycelium from the inside of the largest fruit from the cluster. And the reason we do that is, of all the mushrooms that have grown on there, that's the one that's showing the kind of, a really good size mushroom. And hopefully that's something that we can bring that mycelium will continue from that mushroom that we clone, that will continue to take good genetics with it. This isn't always the case, you don't always get like massive mushrooms if you clone from a massive mushroom, but I think that the genetic potential is more likely to be there. So we're going to use a fresh blade today as well. I mean, sometimes you can, if you're just using the same blades, this is something that really does need a blade that's not dull at all. So, it really is worth just swapping out and having a fresh blade for this. And then try and balance it on in between the bars unsuccessfully. So right, we're gonna split the mushroom down the middle, just tear it simply. And the part where we're going to take our mycelium from, same as in our previous videos, just below the cap, there's a kind of a section where the stipe joins the cap, and we're going to take a biopsy from there. And this is why you need a sharp scalpel, really. It's much easier to take these little wedges of mycelium from that area. So yeah, we're going to take a small piece, pop the mushroom down. And today I'm just using some V8 agar that was left over. Normally this isn't something I'd use. I tend to just use like malt extract or something slightly lower nutrition. Mainly because we're often dealing with dirtier, like a dirty kind of piece of mycelium has been out in the wild. But yeah, does the job perfectly. So really, we're just going to take a small piece of mycelium from each little section. What I like to do in this situation is cut like a small grid. And it is really important while you're working on this that the piece of mycelium doesn't touch the outside of the mushroom. So, see, I'm kind of struggling here to try and take that one piece. Another issue with, when doing clones is that the more you work the mycelium, the more watery and difficult it becomes to work with. So as time goes on now, you'll see me take some wedges shortly that are, that look a bit more translucent from where they've been kind of overworked a bit by the scalpel. It's not a big deal though, the mycelium will continue to grow. So we're just going to work our way down the stipe, taking from areas that that look like clean mycelium. If this was like maggot ridden, I would probably, you've got to assume that there's going to be, when air has got to it, you'd assume that there's bacteria in there as well. So you're much more likely to get early contamination with on agar. It's not to say that you can't, that you can't take from that sort of mushroom. You absolutely can, but just be aware that there may be some transfers involved to to kind of transfer away from contamination that occurs on the plate. So yeah, we're now getting to the point where the mycelium is getting a bit more hard to work with. It's quite fibrous. Anyone who's ever eaten oyster mushrooms knows that that kind of the stipe can be quite fibrous, and you've got to cook it down quite well. 2 for 1 on that one. So that's kind of pretty much, we're coming to the end there of useful mycelium. So in a second, you'll see me, I'll take one more bit if I can get it. And now, typically I'll swap over to the next one. So same again, really. I'm going to try and kind of cut a wedge of, try and cut a small grid of pieces to take. Just makes things a bit easier if you cut that grid out, in advance. It helps things come out in little individual blocks. It doesn't always work though. Come on, you can do this. This is why I didn't do this on Instagram Live. I've said this before in the previous videos as well. Often when you're trying to do clones, it's not unusual that as you're trying to remove mycelium, especially from some of the more woody brackets, as you try and cut mycelium out, it's much easier to kind of launch it across the room using your scalpel blade as you try and pick out the small wedges. I keep calling them wedges. It's just little squares, if anything, little cubes of mycelium. And that's it, pretty much. Typically, like I said, I wouldn't use this sort of agar. We'd definitely go for something a bit lower nutrition, but it does the job. So what I'll do next is I will do a video of the progress of this growth. Oysters pretty kind of quick growers. So I'm hoping to see some decent growth in sort of 4 to 5 days. I'm going to store these plates now at about 20 to 25 degrees. So they'll sit in our colonization room in the office. And we'll do a catch up soon, and you can see the growth. And we'll also kind of examine the growth, the type of growth you can expect from oysters, because obviously each mushroom species is different.